strange, Edward, after all these years. Would you like to ask him over for a talk?
What, this evening?
Well, why not now, if he hasn't left for work?
Are you sure you feel up to it?
Oh, yes, I'm quite my old self again.
Right.
If you prefer to see him alone, I'll make myself scarce.
No, I'd rather you be here. You'll probably get far more out of him than I will.
Do you think he just wants more money?
No, if it was that, he would have said so. I don't seem to be able to get through to him these days.
You know, I expect he just needs a bit of attention.
Hmm? Oh, hello, Bill. Look, would you drop into my place on the way in? No, just for a chat. Oh, we'll put another driver on that journey. Yeah. Well, see you in about 10 minutes. Fine.
Your father always used to say that Bill Riley worked perfectly happily as long as he spent half an hour a week just chatting to him. Even if they only sat over a pint of beer without saying a word to each other, it seemed to satisfy him.
Yes, I remember, but I don't seem to get much chance for that sort of thing these days.
That's a pity.
Yes, I agree.
Edward, I hope this firm never gets so big that it loses the personal touch.
Oh, it's already happening.
It is, after all, a family business.
Yes, whatever that might mean.
And?
Jenny's not in yet, I gather.
Neither is Ted.
Well, we didn't get far last night.
You made the point.
I'd still like to know why she wants to sell.
So why Ted's refusing to buy, since it would give him total control of the company.
Well, perhaps he doesn't want that anymore.
He always used to.
It's a different animal. I think in the back of his mind he knows it's got too complex for him. Ted always did know his limitations.
Poor big brother.
No, I didn't mean that disparagingly. It's a great asset to know your limitations.
There's no asset to admit them. There are too many hungry people around.
My only concern is to get this company efficient enough to cope with expansion.
And Mussolini's only concern was to get the trains running on time.
If we're dealing, Dave, let's cut the compliments and just deal.
All right. What are your stakes?
Well, we'll come to that when we know how much we're talking about.
All right. How much would you say Jenny's shares are worth?
It's hard to put a figure on them.
Well, you're the accountant.
Yes, you're asking me to assess the value of this company, not just at the moment, but potentially.
And then divide by 4.
Well, put it another way. If you were selling yours, how much would you want?
If you were buying, how much would you pay?
People buy according to their resources and sell according to their need.
Exactly.
And perhaps we should try to find Jenny's need. How desperate it is.
Would you prefer a short-term loan or an overdraft?
An overdraft would be cheaper in that it would be reducing.
Yes. Well, as always, it's a question of collateral security.
Principally my 25% share in Hammond Transport Services.
Oh, and you had considered selling these?
I've already announced I want to sell them, but thinking about it overnight, I thought it might just be worth trying to see if I could raise enough from you, so I wouldn't have to.
Yes, of course. Fetch me in the Hammond current account, please. As you know, I only recently took over the bank, so I'm still not totally familiar with all the accounts. This is a private company, isn't it?
Yes. 4 equal shareholders, I'm one.
So if you do decide to sell, the other 3 directors would have first option to purchase.
Yes. 2 of them have already approached me.
I see. Now, come in. Thank you. Ah, yes, I remember now. My predecessor told me about this. There has been a trading deficit over the last 2 years.
The position's much healthier now, Mr. Stevenson.
There certainly seems to have been quite a lot of credit extended. My predecessor must have had a great deal of confidence in the company.
We were backed by guarantee from Mrs. David Hammond.
Yes, but that guarantee has now been withdrawn, has it not?
We felt we didn't need it anymore.
Well, that could be the problem.
Oh, good morning, Mr.
Good morning,
Riley.
Mr. Hammond.
I expect you'd like a cup of tea.
Well, I've just had one, thanks
But
very
you
much.
wouldn't say no to another, would you?
Well, if it's not putting you out.
Not at all.
Take a pew, Bill.
Ah, thanks.
I've been meaning to have a quiet chat with you for some while now, but I don't seem to get much chance at the depot these days.
Aye.
Are you still of the same mind about wanting to leave?
I never said I wanted to, Mr. Hammond. Said I might have to.
But you still don't want to give me the reason?
Well, it's a personal matter, isn't it?
Well, I might be able to help.
No.
Well, how do you know unless you give me the chance?
Mr. Hammond, I'll not leave you in trouble. We agreed I'd train up Frank Perkins.
Look, Bill, you know damn well I'm not bothered about that. I want you to stay because I like having you around. Now, is it a question of money?
I wish it were that simple.
Oh. Help yourself to sugar, Mr.
Oh,
Riley.
thanks very much, Mr. Hammond.
Excuse me.
Down.
Hello? No.
How's your wife
No, I'll
these
be in
days,
later.
Mr. Riley?
Oh, she's bearing up, you know.
I haven't seen her for such a long while. You must bring her round one evening.
Well, that's very kind of you, Mrs. Hammond, but, well, I shouldn't get out much these days.
Is she not well?
Well, it's, time of life, I reckon.
Have you had your holiday this year yet?
Spent it at home in the garden. Well, we had booked to go to Devon, but at the last minute she decided she didn't want to go.
Oh, sure, it would have done her good.
Oh, well, that's what I said, but,
All right. Try and fix a luncheon appointment with them for me.
Mr. Riley?
well, it's a funny situation, really. I mean, she doesn't want to go out.
I'll leave
And
it
at the
up to
same
you.
time, she can't stand the house anymore.
You have lived there a long time, after all.
Aye.
I know how she feels. One can suddenly get awfully tired of a house, and yet not have the energy to do anything about it. It's then that you begin to feel trapped.
Aye. That's what Gwen says she feels. Trapped.
You see, Miss Kingsley, we have a curious position here. Hammond Transport Services were allowed overdraft facilities considerably in excess of the normal because they were underwritten by Mrs. David Hammond's guarantee. My predecessor allowed credit to continue because of the company's improved trading position.
He must have been confident the firm would be able to repay the overdraft.
Indeed. But you are now asking the bank to extend further credit on the collateral of a company that is already extended to the limit.
So, if I'd come here while Jill Hammond's guarantee was still in existence, I could have got my overdraft.
I think that's very probably so.
My shares in the company are worth a lot more than I'm asking to borrow from you.
Only if they can be realized.
But if I realised them, I wouldn't need your money.
Look, substantially, your shares in the company are worth only what one of your co-directors is prepared to pay for them. Since we don't know what that is, it's hard to assess in terms of collateral security. Do you see what I mean?
I think we're just going round in circles, Mr. Stevenson.
It's the credit that's going round in circles, Miss Kingsley, which is essentially the problem.
With the interest rates at their present level, I can't see a clearing bank losing any sleep over that.
Well, I think I'd be prepared to authorise an overdraft limit of £1,000 against your income from the company, if that would be any help.
I need 5,000. And to get it, I'm obviously going to have to sell my shares after all. In which case, I wouldn't have any income from the company, Mr. Stevenson.
So, it all comes down to the fact that you want to move house.
Oh, I'll probably go back up north.
Well, what's up there?
Family.
Well, you talk about brick walls, there's nothing else up there.
Well, we're thinking of the Dales, you know, get ourselves a cottage.
The Dales, with hikers round the door. Now, come off it. You're a big city man.
But as Mr. Riley says, he has his wife to consider.
Look, if you want the country, why not Kent? You can work out of our Dover depot, as I suggested before.
Well, prices there are as bad as in London.
You rent your place, do you?
Aye, control rent. And that's the problem. Never find anywhere else as cheap, not round here.
Well, why have you never bought?
Same reason as most people, I reckon. By the time you've saved up enough for the down payment, prices have shot up again, so it's never enough.
Couldn't the company help, Edward?
Well, he's never asked.
I'll not take charity.
Well, who's talking about charity? It'd be a non-interest loan.
My old dad lived in a tied cottage all his life. When he retired, his governor wanted it for another man, so we were left homeless. Thanks all the same, Mr. Hammer, but that's not for me.
Look, I'm not talking about a tied cottage. I'm suggesting that we arrange the mortgage and maybe take care of the down payment. You wouldn't be tied to us, you'd be tied to the building society, if that'd make you any happier.
Well, that's very kind of you to offer, Mr. Hammond. It'd have to be agreed by the board, wouldn't it?
I'm sure Brown and David would approve.
Aye, maybe. Maybe not.
If between us we're to own 75% of this company, it's time we started to work out our mutual ideas on how it should be run.
If you keep saying we, Brian, but you're still expecting me to find the cash.
Well, we agreed it'd be sensible, otherwise we're bidding against each other. Obviously, being understood that I then buy back half the shares from you.
Excuse me being blunt, Brian, but would you be in a position to do that in cold cash?
Well, you'll just have to wait and see. If not, you'll end up with a lot, or assuming that you have the cold cash in the first place.
I can pay her price, whatever it is.
Personally,
My business.
since we're being blunt, Dave, if you buy with Jill's money.
It doesn't have to concern you.
Directly, no, but I think I have the right to know whether Jill would expect a directorship out of it, since that would affect the balance of the ball.
I haven't asked her that.
And perhaps neither of us should take too much for granted. You may also have a handful of nothing.
Why don't you come round to my place this evening, then we can discuss it with Jill present.
All right. I'd like to bring Anne along.
Naturally.
In the meantime, you'll talk to Jenny again?
With a proposal. Providing she's still in the market.
Oh, I have a feeling she will be. Oh, I better go. I've got to get to the bank.
Hey, Bill! What's the matter, Tom?
That load of dry goods for Barnett.
Mr. Hammond!
What's up?
Well, that load of dry goods for Barnett yesterday afternoon. The driver rang up last night to say he'd broken down on the way home. We haven't heard from him since.
Where was he ringing from?
Call box in North Tottenham. I offered to send someone round to tow him in, but he reckoned he could fix it.
Well, he probably couldn't do it, and he'd get onto a local garage.
I've been ringing repair garages in the area. I can't trace him, and he never called the AA.
Who is it?
Jim Sadler. Oh, my guess is that he got it going, drove home, probably late, and overslept this morning.
Is he on the phone?
No.
You better send someone round to his house. 10 to 1, it's parked outside.
No, I'll call round there myself. It's always the same. If I'm away from this yard for an hour, something happens.
Shows how indispensable you are. Let me know when you track him down.
Dence, I was looking through your company's accounts earlier today.
Oh, in what connection?
Oh, just familiarising myself.
Well, actually, I'm not here on company business.
I see.
I may need to ask for overdraft facilities on my personal account.
Yes?
What is the bank's lending policy at the moment?
Oh, well, as you know, money's expensive at the moment. It would, of course, depend on your collateral security.
Well, I have, as you know, a 25% share of Hammond Transport Service.
I do.
I may now have the opportunity of increasing that share by a further 12.5%,
I see.
thus increasing my holding to 37.5%.
Yes.
So in the event of my bankruptcy, your bank might stand to gain a 3/8 interest in quite a substantial haulage firm.
I'm sure it won't come to that, Mr. Hammond.
I was merely underlining the value of the security.
On the other hand, in the event of the bankruptcy of Hammond Transport Services, we would have a...
Lulu.
I'm sure it won't come to that either. I take it you'd be buying these shares from another director.
Yes, Miss Kingsley has them on offer. I gather that's no secret, as we both have our accounts here.
I can't comment on that, of course.
Oh, naturally.
If Miss Kingsley decided that, after all, she had no need to sell these shares, you would not need an overdraft.
Clearly. Oh. Have I put you in a spot?
Oh, no, not at all. Could we just examine your other securities for a moment? I take it you own your own house.
Well, it's on mortgage, but the value is now much in excess of the Building Society loan.
Yes, of course. It is in your name.
Jointly with my wife. If you like, I could get her permission in writing that it could be used as collateral.
What I'd really like to do, Mr. Hammond, is to think this over. Perhaps you could come and see me again tomorrow.
I'm just asking for a rough idea of how much you'd be willing to lend.
Yes, of course, but if you could just give me 24 hours to consider.
All right. I think I see your problem.
Problem?
If it causes any embarrassment, I could, of course, transfer my account to another bank. That would be rather inconvenient. Unless I transferred the company's trading account as well.
Shall we say 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Mr. Hammond?
Fine.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
This is the Sadler's house, isn't it? They moved. Where do they go to?
I haven't a faintest idea.
Well, when did they go?
About 7:30 this morning.
Oh. Thanks. Oh, you didn't see a lorry parked out here at all during the night, did you?
For removals? Yes, indeed.
No, not a furniture van. An open lorry.
Ah, precisely that. Open lorry.
With the name Hammond on the side.
That was the name of the removalist. Hammond on the side.
All right. Thanks very much.
No obligation.
But you would want it now?
Within the next few days, yes.
Well, it might mean realising some investments, which could take a little time before the cash is available.
David, I don't want to do it this way, but if I have to, then the only advantage to me is to have the money straight away.
Well, supposing I suggest a part payment now and the rest in, say, a month.
What do you call a part payment?
Give me a figure.
As an immediate down payment, 5,000.
Well, can you give me till tomorrow?
All right, down payment tomorrow in cash, the balance in a month.
That's a deal, Jenny.
Who's going to tell the others, you or I?
Well, I'll be seeing Brian later.
Supposing he makes me an offer.
He won't.
I see. What about telling Edward?
I don't think it concerns him at the moment. He opted out.
Since you're just about to buy yourself into the chair, David, I would think it concerns him a great deal.
What makes you think I want the chair?
I thought that was the point of it all.
Not necessarily.
I'll tell him at lunchtime.
Jenny, let's wait until it's all signed and sealed, shall we?
Oh, it was a lovely situation. It was obvious Jenny had been there just before me, probably also trying to raise an overdraft so she wouldn't have to sell. So this unfortunate bank manager, who's only been there 1 week, has to decide whether to lend Jenny the money to keep the shares or lend me the money to buy them. Don't you think that's funny?
What?
The bank manager's dilemma. I couldn't resist dropping a heavy hint that if he didn't resolve it in my favour, I might take the company's trading account somewhere else.
You should have told me you were going to the bank. You could have cashed a cheque for me.
Anne, have you grasped at all what I've been talking about?
Work, as usual.
I may have the chance to become managing director of Hammond's.
Oh. Would that mean an increase in salary?
Well, that's something we'd have to discuss.
I should have thought it would be the first.
Will you stop flicking that duster around to no purpose? I want to talk to you, which is why I'm home at this time of day.
I don't see what I can do about it.
I'd have thought you'd be delighted. Only a short while ago you were pushing me to head the firm, and now it's actually in sight. You don't seem to be interested.
I am. It's just that I have other things on my mind at the moment. Congratulations, Brian. When do you start?
I haven't got it yet. David also has his eye on it, and at the moment he's in the stronger position. Now, we're going to hammer it out this evening at his place, and I'd like you along as well.
Oh, I was going to wash my hair this evening.
This is one of the most important meetings of my life.
All right, darling, but you don't have to scream at me. I just don't see what I can contribute, that's all.
Well, I'd have thought moral support was the least I could expect.
Moral support? Against your own brother?
He's got Jill's money behind him. At least I assume he has. I want to be sure. Now, you'll be able to sense that quicker than I will.
We'll have to switch August around because of holidays.
Yes. Ah, Sadler, come in.
Bill Riley said you wanted to see me, Mr. Hammond. I just got in.
Would you like me to...
No, it's all right. Did he tell you why?
Just to explain about the breakdown.
All right, explain.
Well, she was overheating on the way back from Barnet, so I pulled in. I thought at first she'd blown a rad pipe. Anyway, it wasn't that, so I started stripping down the pump.
Where have you moved to?
What?
I hear you've moved hats.
Oh, yeah, well, that was another thing. See, I never got home with the lorry till after midnight. 5 o'clock, I had to get up and start getting ready for the removal
I'm
men.
asking you where you're living now.
Oh, down at Crayford. Anyway, I got rid of the removal people, started off for work, and blow me if she didn't break down again half a mile away.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I reckon she needs a new pump.
And I reckon you need a new job.
What?
You used my lorry to move house.
Oh, straight up, I had a breakdown.
That you fixed yourself so you could keep my lorry overnight and move your furniture first thing in the morning.
Who told you that?
I don't have to be told that. Do you think you're the first driver to try and get away with a stunt like that? Ask Bill Riley. He knew what you were up to the moment he went round to your place this morning.
Well, I thought if I got away by 5, I'd be in by 8.
It's tough work, isn't it? Moving furniture on your own. Jenny, I want a rough estimate of that job as from 5 a.m. this morning. Oh, plus mileage, Crayford and back. Plus VAT. I'm stopping it out of your wages, right?
Well, I did my own driving.
Oh, plus 2¼ hours for being late in, plus our normal profit margin. Now you get back to work. And if ever I catch you doing this again, I'll charge you double.
Yeah, I bought my own petrol.
Shove off. Well, what are you laughing at?
Nothing. I just wondered how Brian or David would have handled that.
Of course, you know Jennifer Kingsley much better than I do, but she doesn't seem to me to be the sort of person to suddenly run into a heavy debt.
I agree, but she clearly has, so I'd like to seize the opportunity while it's there. That's if you're prepared to help me.
Well, of course I'll help.
I know it's a bit of a cheek on my part. We've no sooner released your guarantee than I come begging for part of it back again.
You're not begging.
All right. Asking you to invest in me.
You know, I'd do it gladly, David, long as I think it's the right thing to do.
Of course, the shares would be in your name, so I would effectively be voting on your behalf at board meetings.
I'd expect to be consulted.
Yes, the only other alternative is to ask you to lend me the money.
You'd really prefer that?
Well, it would be simpler. Yes, but I don't think I've got the right to do that.
Why not?
I haven't exactly been the perfect husband so far, have I?
Would you be if I lent you the money?
I wouldn't want to make that sort of bargain.
Then why raise it?
Well, I just... Well...
You think I'd try and buy your good behavior?
No, but it didn't work that way before.
Careful, David.
It's got nothing whatsoever to do with it.
Good. Now we can talk about it seriously. At the moment, my money's invested in all kinds of enterprises about which I know little and care less. At least I know you, and care very much what happens to you.
Do you still really have that much faith in me?
As I said, as long as I think you're doing the right thing.
Anne?
Yes?
You ready?
Washing my hair.
I told you we were going to David's tonight.
Look, you told me you needed my moral support. Well, I need the moral support of having washed my hair.
You had all afternoon to do
I
that.
have shopping to do.
Well, couldn't you have done it before you went shopping?
What, a walk around the supermarket with wet hair? Don't be so ridiculous. Look, this thing seems to have blown its fuse. Perhaps you could fix it for me,
Look,
Nan.
you know I'm no good with electrical things.
The fuse is in the plug. The plug is on the end of the
All right,
wire.
all right.
Are we eating there?
Oh, I forgot to ask. Well, if not, we can go out and eat afterwards.
How long will it take?
How should I know? I wish you wouldn't make it sound such a duty.
Isn't it?
All right, if it's too much trouble, forget it. I'll go on my own.
Brian.
I'm sorry. I'm just not myself at the moment.
Yes, I'll explain. You're not well.
No, of course I'll go. I just don't know how I'm expected to behave.
Perfectly normally. If you get bored, talk to Jill.
Oh, Jenny, are you off?
Yes, why?
Only you didn't say goodnight to me, that's all.
We weren't there.
Do you have to rush home?
It's after 6.
Well, I thought we might go for a drink.
Where?
A quick one at the Albion.
All right. Just the one.
One each. Hang on, I'll be right back.
I haven't seen you for ages, Anne.
I know, it's entirely my fault. I've been meaning to invite you round for dinner for ages, but Brian's seldom at home.
What's that?
Anne seems to think you're working too hard.
Oh, is that what he tells you?
David tells me exactly the same thing. I suspect they both spend the evening boozing together.
Most likely.
Anne, what are you having?
Vodka and tonic.
Moving on to the hard stuff.
How are the children?
Oh, flourishing.
Well, at least we hope so. We haven't seen them for weeks.
Oh, must be nice and peaceful with them both away.
Very peaceful.
Well, cheers, everyone.
To, absent friends?
I found out why Bill Riley's unhappy. It all comes down to the fact that his wife wants a new house.
Who's moving him? Jim Sadler.
I suggested that the firm help with the mortgage. You've no objection to that?
Of course not.
I wanted to speak to Brian and David about it, but they shot off. So I've taken their agreement for granted.
Well, I wouldn't take Brian's for granted.
Well, why not? It's just a matter of arranging the down payment. Our usual brokers will give us a good deal. Oh, thanks. Well, shall we sit down? Cheers.
I'm not telling tales out of school, but I get the impression that Brian isn't too happy.
Well, hard luck. I decide on the staff, not him. And if he wants to make an issue of it, you and I can outvote him on the board.
I shan't be sitting on the board much longer, Edward.
Jenny, I thought I'd talked you out of that nonsense.
It isn't nonsense, and you haven't.
I scotched it at the last meeting.
You didn't. You refused to accept it as an item of business. Don't imagine that prevents anyone making an offer.
Well, has anyone?
Yes.
Who?
David.
Dave, you haven't accepted.
Why shouldn't I?
Well, he'd own half the company.
It was always on the cards.
Does Brian know?
Yes, they approached me together.
Jenny, do you realize what this means? Together they could vote me out of the chair.
Has that only just occurred to you?
And even out of this company in the long run.
I did give you first option, Edward. You refused.
So what's your suggestion?
I prefer my original structure. You and the chair, myself as managing director.
What you actually said yesterday was yourself or Ted.
Well, I think we can rule Ted out now.
Could I ask why? If it's not a rude question?
Well, because he'd have a minority shareholding.
Or does that matter?
Well, there are other reasons as well, Jill. We need a quite substantial reorganization of the company, and Ted isn't really the man to do that, even supposing he was willing to.
Then can we agree that I take it?
I thought you told me that you were going to be managing director, darling.
I said we'd discuss it.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I couldn't go along with that.
As a mere woman, I don't pretend to understand these things, David, but can you tell me why Brian, as the elder brother, doesn't naturally take the senior post?
It isn't a question of age, Anne.
Oh, what does decide it, then?
Put it crudely, money.
Oh, I see.
I think we can safely say that Ted is going to be pretty sore about this.
Well, one could hardly blame him.
Sore enough to want to seek an alliance. Now, he might feel that his most fruitful alliance would be with me, in which case you'd be outvoted on every issue.
Yes, the same thing would apply if you took the MD's job. He'd form an alliance with me.
Then it's a stalemate.
Unless, of course, he became so outrageous to leave the company altogether.
I think that would be quite appalling.
Why?
What you're really talking about is manoeuvring him out, isn't it?
No, he isn't. Brian says that he might decide to leave anyway, and who could stop him?
Yes, but he's being so humiliated, he's left with no alternative.
That is business, Jill.
If that's business, it's immoral.
What has morality got to do with it?
Everything, as far as I'm concerned.
Good heavens, Jill.
Jenny, for the last time, will you please tell me what's behind all this?
I've already told you more than I intended. Now I must go.
Those two are going to cut me up, Jenny. The company that Dad and I built together, now you can't just walk away and let them do that.
You know the alternative.
Yes, to buy you out and get rid of you.
It's either you or them.
There is a third alternative, that you tell me why the hell you're doing this for.
Edward, you're making a scene.
I'll wreck the place if I feel like it, but you tell me.
Come outside.
Only if you tell me.
All right. Be it on your own head. Come on.
It all comes down to votes. Now, the only reason the chairman had a casting vote as well as his own was because there were four of us.
And with an even number, there had to be a tiebreaker.
Jenny gone, Ted loses his casting vote.
So Ted can stay as chairman.
But with no power anymore.
So as Anne says, it's a straight fight for managing director.
We could abolish the post altogether. After all, what we're really talking about is a general manager to look after the depot. Well, we could appoint someone from outside, somebody young, keen, but with no voting rights.
Then Ted would really blow his stack.
So what? With one vote?
I'm starving.
So am I.
Well, at least we can agree about something. Can I rustle up some food for you, conspirator?
Oh, no, let's eat out.
Let me take us all to the traps.
No, this is on me.
For God's sake, don't let's start arguing about that.
Mother! Mother! Mother!
I'm not deaf, Edward. Would you like steak?
Oh, what?
The butcher's got some Scotch beef in at last.
The only Scotch I need comes out of a bottle, and you'd better join me.
I do wish you wouldn't drink on an empty stomach.
Now, let's get this over quickly and cleanly. Now, you lent Barbara Kingsley £5,000.
Oh, not that again.
Without mentioning it to me, and above all, without consulting her mother.
It has nothing to do with either of
Now,
you.
I'm not going to repeat anything that Jennifer may have said already.
Well, that at least is a
But
blessing.
all I want to say is this, that as a result of what you've done, my brothers, your dear sons, are at this moment plotting and planning to squeeze me out of the company.
What on earth are you talking about?
They're buying Jennifer out so she can afford to pay you back, which reduces me to the role of errand boy.
It's far too involved for me to understand.
And there's nothing too involved for you to understand, or to plan, or to carry out behind my back.
Edward, I lent Barbara that money out of a simple desire to help her.
Oh, I wish I could believe that, Mother, I really do.
And why shouldn't you? Apart from your determination to blame me for everything that goes wrong.
Well, you're invariably behind it.
Edward, I'm reluctant to say this, but you becoming almost paranoid these days.
Oh, so none of this is happening. It's all in my imagination.
Well, when you start accusing Brian and David of plotting with Miss Kingsley and me against you, you really have gone beyond the bounds of credence. Why don't you go straight up to bed, and I'll bring your steak up to you.
You told me you were going to insist on being managing director.
I'm in no position to insist. Don't you understand? David can buy Jenny's shares. I can't. The most I can hope to do is scrape together enough money to buy back half of them from him afterwards.
Yes, I'm sorry, darling. Really. But I must go to bed now.
Yes. What did you think of Jill's reaction?
Which one?
I got the impression that she isn't exactly 100% behind David. I wondered how it appeared to your shrewder eye.
Humbug.
What's Jennifer Kingsley's home number?
It's in the address book.
Mind if I ring her?
She'll probably be in bed. What for?
I'd like to talk to her, that's all.
About this business?
Well, I've heard part of the story. I'd like to hear the rest.
I haven't kept anything back from you. She's leaving, that's all.
Well, perhaps she could be persuaded not to.
But then there'll be nothing to... Well,
Carve up? Exactly.
but earlier this evening you said you'd back me.
If I thought you were doing the right thing. But now that I've listened to you both behaving like a couple of puppies over a chop bone, I'm not so sure that you are.
Jill, if you think this was a tough meeting tonight, you've no idea what goes on in the commercial world.
Didn't think it was tough at all. I just thought it was rather shabby.
Why? Because we were hard on Ted.
Hard and tough, your silly schoolboy words. You weren't being hard, either of you. You were just being mean and cruel at his expense.
If you prefer your silly schoolgirl words.
It was particularly unpleasant because he wasn't here to defend himself.
He has had his chance to buy those shares.
Well, perhaps he can't afford to.
Oh, I'm damn sure he can. He's a bachelor who never spends. He's been tucking it away for years.
Then why hasn't he?
I don't know.
Is he in love with Jennifer?
We've had some sort of on-off thing going ever since Dad died.
Then you do know the reason. He's in love with Jennifer and he doesn't want to lose her. And that seems to me to be a far better motive than any I've heard this evening.
You now trying to tell me that you're not going to lend me the money?
Look, I'm sorry, David, but, well, under these circumstances, I'm just not sure.
That's the way it's always going to be, isn't it? There'll always be conditions.
Only the one, that you treat people with respect.
He's my brother. I'll treat him how the hell I like.
Not with my money, David.
Brian? Brussels, please. 29654. No, I've tried to dial STD, but I don't seem to be able to get through. This is 2468026. Oh. All the lines are engaged. Could you try again later, please? Thank you. Goodbye. I thought you'd gone.
No, I just ran the car down to the garage to get those wipers fixed. I didn't want to wake you.
But you've had breakfast.
Well, I could do with another cup of coffee. And would you mind if I took out a second mortgage on this house?
So what's wrong with the first?
Oh, nothing. It's just a way of raising extra money. See, I assume I'll get the overdraft, but it won't be spectacular. So if I could borrow on a second mortgage. And I was wondering if your father would be prepared to help.
Help?
With a loan.
My father?
Well, he'll have to do something with his money soon, or he'll be liable for death duties.
But Brian, he's still in his 60s.
Yes, but it has to be dispersed 7 years before he dies.
What are you talking about, Brian?
I was thinking last night. Now, I think we could just about borrow enough so that I could get in ahead of David if I moved fast enough, and then I could start laying down the terms.
Just a moment, Brian. Half this house belongs to me.
Well, I pay the mortgage.
And is all this about my father?
I'm sure he'd help, darling, if you asked him. I'm bidding against Jill's money.
Not with my property, you aren't. Oh, my father's.
I'm sorry, I should have waited. You're not really awake yet.
I am awake enough to realize that this whole damn business is beginning to bore me to tears. I'm certainly not going to pay for it as well.
And you're still not very well, are you?
I am perfectly well and of sound mind, but if you think that you're going to play ducks and drakes with me, oh, to hell with it! You do whatever you like!
Hello? What? I haven't booked any call to Belgium. You must have the wrong number. Yes, that's right, but, well, what time is it booked? Hang on a minute. Continental operator insists that someone's booked a call to Belgium. Well, what was the number in Brussels? No, really, there's been some mistake. Yes, you'd better cancel. Goodbye. That number rings a bell. Of course. Nicholas Fox.
He was probably trying to get hold of you.
And she said it had been booked from here. Well, I'd better call him back in case it's something urgent.
Do it from work, Brian.
Well, I'll charge it up to the company anyway.
Don't tie that phone. I've got to make a telephone call to my doctor, and she goes out in a couple of minutes.
Of course. I'm sorry, you should have mentioned it.
Jenny!
Yes?
Get in.
Where are we going?
Just get in.
Well,
Fasten your seatbelt.
I usually do.
I want to make quite sure that you can't get out in a hurry.
Thanks for that meal, Brian. That's a pretty good restaurant.
This is one of our favorites.
Brian, look, we're going to have to talk again, I'm afraid.
Well, yes, the key problem still isn't settled.
No, before we get to that. Jenny gave me 24 hours to find the down payment.
Is that now a problem?
Well, there are certain difficulties.
Still backing down?
Well, it may take me a little longer to persuade her.
Ah. Well, then I'll just see what I can do. Well, I've got to go to the bank shortly, then I'll have to go home and see Anne. She's not very well.
Sorry to hear that.
I should be back before lunch.
I'm calling a board meeting for 10 o'clock this morning. I want you both there without fail.
Edward, am I being abducted?
In a sense, yes.
Oh, that's nice. Can I ask where we're going?
To the bank.
What for?
To transfer £5,000 from my deposit account into your current account.
Are you making a down payment on my shares after all?
No, you're keeping them. This is a loan.
Oh, no.
Look, I don't want any arguing, Jenny, and I'm doing 50, so just keep quiet.
Edward, stop the car.
My first thought was to give Mother a cheque last night on your behalf. But then I felt you'd probably want to pay her back with a cheque of your own.
Edward, it's very sweet of you, but I absolutely refuse to be in your debt.
Then you'll have to stay in Mother's debt. Which would you prefer?
I found a way out of that.
Your way out would have been disastrous. For me, anyway. Jenny, I could have strangled you when I learnt last night what it was all about.
No possible way of paying you back.
Well, let me worry about that. You just keep looking for a parking spot.
Barbara ran into debt in the first place. At least her husband did. She's my daughter. I'm responsible for her.
Barbara also happens to be my stupid, scatterbrained, half-witted half-sister. So it's mine as well. And the next time I meet her feckless husband, I'm going to boot him all the way to Brighton.
They're not going to Brighton now. Latest idea is Blackpool.
Good. Then I can boot him even further. Now, come on, Jenny, or I'll create another scene outside the bank.
West London Air Terminal, please.
It's 10 o'clock. Take your places. There's only one item. There'll be no discussion. It's merely for your information. Now, I know you'll all be as delighted as I am to learn that Jennifer has now decided she can stay with the company. Her shareholding in Hammond Transport Services is no longer for sale. I know you'll wish to congratulate her on a very wise decision. May I record that in the minutes?
Yes, of course.
Brian?
Yes, naturally.
Good. The following will not be recorded in the minutes.
If that's the only item, I'd prefer to leave.
All right, Jenny, as you wish. Now, for the past 48 hours, you two, without my knowledge, and behind my back, have been huddled together like crows over a carcass, plotting your disreputable and, in the end, pathetic moves to take over this company.
I don't think we have to stay and listen to this.
You'll sit down and hear me out. I said sit down, David. I don't know the sordid details, and I don't want to. I don't know which one of you fancied himself in my chair, or who preened himself with the thought of managing director across the door. All I know is that both of you, both my brothers, were ready and eager to take advantage of Jenny's problems without a thought but how you could profit by it and kick me in the face at the same time. I came up the hard way. And I'm telling you, both of you, that plot and scheme as you may, you will never take this company away from me. I'll burn it to the ground first.
You finished?
Yes, I've finished. Now get out of my sight. The pair of you.